What's up, guys? So we're gonna do a pretty special live tonight. We got Valerie coming on, Josh Byerly, and then Kenneth, as always. So I'm gonna let some people get in here, and then they should be coming in here in a minute. And we're just gonna talk about a little bit of everything: video games, VHS, collecting in general. All right, Josh, I got your request here. What's up, guys?
What's up?
How's it going?
It's
You
fantastic.
guys ready to rock the live out, man? Wait on Valerie to get here.
Yeah.
So how you guys been? Oh, Robin's on. What's up, Robin?
Yeah.
Nice.
Been good.
Josh, how you been?
Doing okay. Just hanging out at soccer practice with my kid. She's out playing, and I'm sitting in the car right now. So
Nice, man. Daddy duties today, huh?
that's
Yeah,
right.
Still nice
I got kids too.
Pacific time zone.
Pacific time zone. It's a bright and sunny day here in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm halfway through the night here, man. So
What time is it there? 8 o'clock?
yeah, it's 8 here.
8. Okay. Yeah, so I was telling everybody we'll wait till Valerie gets on here in a minute. But I was telling everybody that we're gonna talk just a little bit about like games and VHS, just collecting in general. Maybe show some like cool tie-ins and stuff like that. We'll just see how it goes. Kenneth, are you frozen? I think
I don't
this thing
think
is frozen, man.
Did he get kicked out?
I don't think. Well, he's frozen. Let me see.
Oh,
He might have to
I don't,
request back in.
yeah, I don't even see
Kenneth,
him.
if you can see this, you got to request back in, man.
That
All
was
right, we'll give him
gone.
a minute.
He bounced.
So I got this one, man. We'll talk about this one tonight. We'll wrap around Back to the
Look
Future.
at that.
You had one
It's a beauty.
of these, didn't you?
Yeah, I sold it.
That's
I bought
right.
it before it was cool. So
How
uh,
long ago did you buy that one?
that was it was I think December of 2020 or January of 2021, right around then. I'd been looking for one for a while, bought it, and I graded it with VHS DNA and sold it. So
Oh, that's right. I forgot it was DNA graded. That was a
yeah,
while ago, man. That was what, like 2 years ago?
yeah, yep.
Well, while we're waiting for Valerie to come in, Josh, what are your thoughts on the comparisons to video games and VHS? Like, I know you collect VHS too, but where do you see like a lot of the comparisons between each in terms of like collectability and stuff?
Yeah, for me, collectability on it is great because it's so inexpensive if you aren't necessarily looking for I looking for the sealed stuff all the time. You know, if you just want to go to a thrift, they're anywhere from 20 cents to $1, depending on the thrift. You know,
Hmm.
so it's really an affordable hobby, and it's alluring that way because it scratches that itch that video games used to when you could go to a thrift store and pick them up for a buck, $2 a piece. So
Definitely.
there's that side of VHS that I absolutely love. When comparing them to like video games, I've always said it that video games and VHS are very similar when it comes to like identifying variants because there's so many different revisions that happen with VHS over the years, and
Hmm.
so it's an easily comparable collectible in that regard. Um, yeah, that's mainly it, really. I don't know. I
Yeah.
love VHS. I think it's underappreciated as a collectible. But you know, if you think the trolls in the video game hobby are bad, man, like
Hmm.
go talk to some of the old tape heads. They're nightmares, dude. So
Yeah, that is true.
but,
Yeah, they're
And
brutal.
yeah,
oh, definitely,
I'll
man.
try not to be that blunt, but you
No,
know,
you're
it's
not
the truth.
wrong, man. It's the truth. And the one good thing or one cool thing you brought up was about variants because there is, a ton of variants in VHS just like games. And me Kenneth and I do like the lives once a week with Paul and just talk about like variants and stuff like that. But um, even something like we'll just kind of talk about this for a second, but like this Terminator. So this is like a true street date Terminator. This would be like the $79 copy, not the Play for Keeps. I mean, the Play for Keeps one's still good. Um, but Kenneth, you want to talk about why it's a street date? Because of like the two-tone and all that stuff.
And there's a handful of different tapes that go in that box. So I mean, I was for a while I was buying those like complete in box, just anything that was like under $10. And man, I forgot how many total I got. 5 tapes just in that box. And there's like Fuji's and TDKs and I think there's Scotch on that as well. Like there's a handful, and there's like the two
Hmm.
khaki guards and the black guards on those. So um, there's also like the case difference, and where those thorns have that white case, but they have like the inserts. Show them like the inside of the box where it has like the two. I don't even know what they call them, but they're like the little things that hold the reels, and those can be on the front or the back side.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
And the other, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. I was just gonna say those also come like that box comes with both like Thorn EMI labels and HBO Canon labels, like in the same clamshell
Hmm.
box.
Hmm.
Um, from what I can tell, I'm guessing the later prints, probably the Play for Keeps copies. A lot of those had
HBO
the HBO
video.
labels on the tapes, even though the box still says Thorn EMI.
Yeah.
Um, I've never seen a HBO Canon clamshell. There's HBO Canon, there's later slip sleeve covers, but yeah, they must have like done the tape before they did the box. So
Yeah. No, that's true. And yeah, some of the HBO video tapes or the labels would be in the Play for Keeps. And the other thing too is, I'll show this real quick, but this is like super micro. But on these like street date copies or like the true first ones that were $80, the plastic on the clamshell, it has like this wavy texture. You can see it how it's like wavy in the light. And then like the 95% of the Play for Keeps ones or just like a super tight plastic, and even like the paper insert that's in the Play for Keeps one is like thinner and it's like a brighter color. You see how this one's like that duller color tone and sort of like a creamier back or whatever.
yeah,
That's like a true, first release Terminator, what it looks like. But it's just a lot of this information isn't out there, like in terms of guides and stuff, so people just they really have no idea. But when you look at it like that, I mean, that to me makes it that much more cool and collectible when you look at the rarity of it.
yeah. The
Let me try
nice,
to invite Valerie in real quick.
I was
Okay, go
gonna say,
ahead, Kenneth.
all the HBO like Thorn stuff, whether it's Thorn, HBO Canon, HBO Video, like all the iterations, they never put cover dates on the boxes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So they have a date. It's just the date of the movie. It's not like the release date. Um, but all of their tapes have like printed date codes on the front. So even if it's covered up by a label, they got like the printed date code on the front. So you can
Yeah,
really kind of break like over time, see when they were produced and when they swapped labels and everything. When they updated the case from like you know Thorn to HBO and to HBO Video to Weintraub. Even the Weintraub has two different labels. It has like a all black label and then a like a gold text
hmm,
label that I think like right around 90. What's up, Val?
nice. Oh,
Hey
hey Valerie,
guys,
what's going on?
sorry
How
for
are you
taking so
doing?
long.
No,
I'm
it's all
good. How are
good.
you?
No worries.
Good. Thank you for coming on with us and doing the live for a little bit. Really
Absolutely. Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
So we were just talking about a little bit about like some variants in VHS and a lot of the similarities between video games and VHS. Um, what similarities do you see with games and VHS? Like in terms of like the covers of like the games and the tapes or like the collectability stuff like that.
Um, well, I mean, I definitely see the nostalgia factor, especially as far as like handling the physical medium goes.
Hmm.
I mean, the covers, I mean, I guess that there are some similarities when you're looking at like the classic 80s movies. Those were a large number of them seem to have been hand drawn, hand painted, like a lot of the NES covers. I mean, eventually they did, roll into more photography based covers, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely see some overlap. Physical medium,
Yeah, definitely.
physical
And I've
media.
got one because I've talked to you before about this movie, but Labyrinth.
Oh
So
yeah,
speaking of like a great cover, like I mean, you really can't go wrong with a cover like this. And this is the first print Embassy too.
yeah, that was the
Kenneth, have you
one I
guys?
was thinking of when I was talking about,
Yeah,
artwork instead of photography.
yeah, exactly. Kenneth, have you guys seen any of these come through, like with the Embassy watermarks and
Yeah,
stuff sealed?
we actually just had one of those today.
Oh, did
Um,
you?
yeah, it was a little bit later because it had a back UPC added, so it had three UPCs. You know how the embassies have two, left and right. But they had
Right.
like a UPC sticker, so it's kind of funny seeing it with three. But no, I
Yeah.
really have to agree with Valerie. The illustration value to me is what I really like about the classic era of games and like home video, like just everything being, whether it's like Drew Struzan or a lot of really great like cover artists, like the Goon behind you, like every
Right.
for a movie was sold with like a beautiful illustration.
Hmm.
Um, Usually, a lot of times you'd see the movie posters or the teaser posters that you see in a theater would end up on the VHS box, and it was really cool to see that where when you started getting into DVD and later games, I think it was just why pay an illustrator when we can just do some digital art or crop some picture out of the movie and just throw it on it. A lot of deep for that reason. I black. They just don't have that same nostalgia feel because they have these like terrible covers. They don't like sell the movie like the VHS era.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure that any of us that went to like a video store back in the day, the cover of the movie was what sold you on it. So same as the game. Like if you're gonna rent the game, you're looking at the cover and like, oh wow, crazy, or this looks fun.
Absolutely.
You internet or
Yeah,
anything to like
definitely.
tell you if it was good or not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to that point about video stores, I think that video games and VHS movies in general, when they are so intertwined in the nostalgia factor
Hmm.
from our youth and when we were kids, and maybe people are older, people are younger, whatever, but everybody that was experienced the video store era, whether it be Blockbuster or an independent family owned video, you had the same sort of feel if you went into a video store, if you were renting a game or a movie. It was that experience. It was that community that existed
Hmm.
that really drove that feeling home. I mean, at least for me, it did. So I think the similarity of comparing like just the rental industry, what VHS was really built on,
Hmm.
and how video games fit into that. It went hand in hand. You'd go to the video store, mom and dad would rent a couple movies, you'd rent a video game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's you got
exactly.
to pick out your movie and a game. So it was. I'm very nostalgic for the video store too. I mean, I worked at one in college, not a Blockbuster,
Hmm.
but I worked at the video store that I went to as a kid, so it
Hmm.
was really special to me, and I do love movies a lot, and I also love that it's just kind of an ignored thing in many parts of the world, in many thrift stores.
Hmm.
You can get in the weeds of this and really enjoy collecting.
Looks like Josh froze on us. Josh, if you see it, man, you might have to request back in. Okay.
It's just long way.
Well, while we're waiting on him to come back in, because he was talking about like a lot of the nostalgia with the rental store and stuff, and that's the thing with VHS too is like there hasn't really been any guides out and stuff like that like you guys did with Wada Kenneth when you came out with like the black box guide, so that made it like super easy for everybody to collect and like figure out what was what. But there is like real rarity like in these video games, like even something like this Goonies. This is a true first release Goonies, and I've only seen like maybe what can it's like one or two of these sealed, and it has the two-tone Fuji tape. And what's cool about this too is like they had the Struzan art that I have back there for the one sheet poster, but this is the Famicom art that's like on the Famicom box for like the Goonies, and they just used it for this. So there's just a lot of like play on the similarities and stuff that I think a lot of like people that are like maybe on the fence getting into VHS and collecting it more, or even investing in it and stuff, they're just not like aware of like the stuff that like really makes it cool. They might look at it like, oh, VHS is like 90s stuff like Billy Madison's and Happy Gilmore's, which there's nothing wrong with those movies. It's just, something like this Goonies, this would be on the same level as, what do you guys think, like a Mega Man or a Punch Out, something like on that tier of games, maybe even like a Castlevania or something like that. And, even like a Back to the Future. This is a true first release one. I've only seen one of these sealed. Heritage has sold like, I think you guys have sold like two of these in the past. Josh texted me. He said his phone overheated in the car, so he's got to let it cool down, and then he's gonna be back on. So we're gonna wait on Josh.
I don't
But yeah,
I don't
go
have
ahead,
one.
Kenneth.
Another good one to show would be to show is the Goonies too, because the art was taken from Romancing the Stone, the VHS cover of Romancing the Stone. So
Oh,
if you
that's right. It was.
posted this like years back on my Instagram, but if you put the two side by side, like you can tell the composition's like identical.
Hmm.
They're both like swinging, and the girls' legs are taken the same way, and Mikey on the front is doing like the jump like
Right.
as in the movie. So it's kind of neat like seeing those. I mean, obviously these illustrations were, a lot of them were the same people.
Hmm.
You have like uh, say like Greg Winters that did like the Mega Man, most of the Mega Man covers for NES, Game
Hmm.
Boy, and Super. Um, like he did like Gremlins 2, like that cover. You know what I mean? So a lot of these artists were the same graphic artists that were doing doing video game covers. So it's kind of neat seeing that.
Yeah, definitely is. And Valerie, your other favorite movie, I think you mentioned this to me before, is Beetlejuice, right?
Oh yeah.
You love
Yeah. I almost wore my
Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice overalls for this.
Oh, nice. So I've got a first release Beetlejuice here, and I was going to show it to you guys. I pulled this out specifically to show on the live, but
That's
this is it right
awesome.
here. So it has what's up, Josh? Your phone
Sorry
overheat,
about
man?
that.
No, it's
I,
all
Hey,
good.
are you
I
just
had
sitting
my
outside
phone.
your car right now?
I had my phone on the dashboard and it said it overheated.
Should I go
So
get my sunglasses too?
yeah.
Oh, it's funny. But yeah, like showing like the Beetlejuice. I mean, and if you look at like I guess like new movies or franchises and stuff that's coming out. I mean, they're coming out with Beetlejuice too, and like sometime in the summer, I think. But
Yeah, there's a
even
musical
this, like you
too.
wouldn't. Yeah, that's right. There's a musical. So like even something like this, like people wouldn't think because Beetlejuice is like late '80s, but this is like super super hard to find for like the first release Beetlejuice. Um,
There we go.
so. What do you think about like Valerie? What do you think about like since we're kind of talking about the rarity of VHS and like the prints and variations and stuff like that, you see a lot of similarities between that and video games, obviously, right? Because like video games have a lot of variants. There's super rarity with a lot of games like a Castlevania Hang Tab or like a TM Zelda. Um, it's just like I was saying, like it just hasn't really been talked about enough. Like people don't really know these prints. There's no guides. Kenneth, I think you guys are going to do some guides eventually, right?
Yeah, I'm working on working on. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I guess with that being said, Valerie, like, do you think like if obviously it's talked about more, some good guides get out and stuff like that, and good promotions, like you could possibly see like VHS like a first print Back to the Future or Goonies like hitting potentially big numbers one day like a Zelda or something because you guys just sold a Zelda. When was it? A couple of weeks ago or months ago? What did it go for?
288,000.
Right, just a cool 288,000. So
No big
I don't know.
deal.
I mean, yeah, no big deal. So to me, I guess when I'm looking at it, because I collect a little bit of everything like you guys do, if it's like, again, if you're looking at like the Back to the Future first release, it's like, to me, this is just as big as like a Zelda. There's just like the same fan base and stuff. It's different, but everybody loves Back to the Future. So what do you guys think, Kenneth? You want to chime in?
Yeah, Back to the Future is one of my favorites. I mean, that was, well, I mean, aside from the movie, it's just it's an interesting time for like VHS because it's 86 and VHS was still kind of right on the cusp of like stuff being expensive and being not super common. So I feel like right around 87, 88 is when you see that like commonality of VHS, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, man, those like first 10 years of VHS, 77 to 87, seems to be where you get a lot of your rarities. So, and the first print Back to the Future is like no slouch. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, it's like for NES 85 to 87, like, you know, games that have hang tabs and stuff like that, right? They're just quite a bit harder to find. And then once you get to like 88, things really settle down and you see like a lot easier. You
Right.
I was actually going to ask a question about the relevance of certain titles, if I may chime in.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and maybe it's just because the Goonies were a little before my time, but why is the Goonies such a, you know, high priority movie title, I guess, among, you know, the hundreds of and thousands of movies that are out there? Like,
Can I answer
why
this one?
Goonies? Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
it's because Goonies never say die.
Because
That's right, man.
No, it's just I if you were an '80s kid, you grew up with that's the movie, right? It's the adventure movie that any kid that watched it at a certain age they could relate to and say, hey, maybe I could go on an adventure. Maybe I could be one of those kids. Maybe I don't fit in with other people, but maybe I can get a group of friends. We can go on an adventure. You know, it was very relatable. And it was filmed in Oregon, so that's why it's a perfect film.
It's like Josh's backyard, man.
Yeah.
The rest of us are all representing the dirty South here, and Josh is the outsider from Oregon.
Yeah.
So.
Ken is all like, I want to watch some Roadhouse. Yeah, no, the Goonies is the quintessential 80s film. You know, it's kind of the one.
Yeah. Fleo said, "Never-ending story needs more love, though." That's true, and that is a rare one. That's the Warner clamshell. That one's super hard to find. But like talking about the Goonies, you know, with the question there, it's like if you look, I guess I can go and break this down why this is like a true first release because there's two wraparound Goonies. Kenneth, I know you know what I'm talking about here. It's like this is like a duller color tone of like the slip. And then there's another one that's like brighter. It was like printed on like a cheaper stock or whatever. But they're both going to have these tapes. And when you really like look at these tapes, you know, like this is a two-tone Fuji tape. Like this is just really cool, you know. And this actually has a date on it too. I peeled the side label before because a lot of these will have date codes and stuff. And this one has a date of 3/11/86, and I think Goonies like hit rental stores in like sometime in May. So if you look at it right there, there's the date code on it, 03/11/86. So that's how you know this is like a true first print too. Like me and Kenneth and Josh, I think I've showed Josh. Have I showed you that before? The dates on the side labels and stuff. Josh, can you hear me?
There's a train going by right now.
Oh, okay. I was like,
No.
I don't know if you could hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. But yeah, that's
That
what.
Too.
What's that?
Your early Back to the Future had that, didn't it? Like the
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'll show it in a second. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just like Josh was saying, like everybody loves Goonies, and it's just like a cultural phenomenon, like from like the 80s. Like it's just, you know, adventure, everything about it's cool, and then you add in like the rarity. Because again, like I've only seen like one or two of these sealed like in 20 years. So then like it's the same thing with like games. If you look at like a Castlevania hang tab, I know that one just popped up on eBay, so now there's what, like 6 on the pop, so like 6 total, and then that's why everybody pays a lot, you know, or kind of, you know, gravitates toward the nice CIVs and stuff. So I could see the same thing happening in VHS. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it
really
totally
nice,
should
dude.
happen. I mean, and it will. It will take time to catch on.
Yeah.
But I think first and foremost, the community that exists really exists within basic collectors, right? So the whole sealed market is very tough. It's its own thing, and it's fine. And if people want to branch out and do that, they should. But let's not forget that it's a nice, fun medium to collect, and very accessible to people right now. So
That's true.
Yeah,
yeah.
No,
Yeah. So go ahead, Kenneth, real quick.
say with Matt collecting like CIBs mainly, it's amazing like the difference that still exists within VHS. Like we used to see with games where there was this big disparity between sealed and CIB. You can get some really mint like still in the games and stuff like that. But like just for for movies you can get them for what, $20 a lot of times. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, even if you, and that's it's crazy, but it's also kind of cool. Like something like the Goonies. I mean, you might not find one with the wrap, but you could go on and find a nice CIB right now for like less than probably $100, which really is very reminiscent of CIB games like 6 or 7 years ago. And then somebody asked VHS Blockbuster, there's a black lid wraparound Goonies with silver sticker too. Is that first? Yeah, so that is a first, and that's where it gets a little tricky. So that's actually a Konica tape, and it's just one of the ones they were kind of piggybacking off of like the '85 releases. So this would be the tape right here. This is a European Vacation, but this is a Konica tape. This is another Goonies first press tape they would be using, and it has, well, that sticker's torn off, but the silver security sticker. But this is also a first print Goonies tape. It's just a little bit harder to find. So just to answer his question.
That foil sticker is the main thing you want to see on those early ones.
Yeah. It's just the way these distributors were putting out VHS, like there was obviously a timeline and an order to like obviously the prints and the tapes they were producing on. So, but some things did just get thrown in there, and I know you've seen it too, Kenneth, with like the different, like prints or something like a Goonies like Blackguard tape. But yeah, like we're saying, the rarities there, and then like the cool covers. I mean, you have something like a National Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, everybody loves this movie. This is the first release clamshell. Josh, do you have one of these?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I collect like that when I'm just buying open stuff. I totally go for the sets of stuff. Like with NES, you can get the Capcom set, right? With VHS, it's really cool. Like focusing in on a studio, right? You get the Warner clams like that, or the boxes, the big boxes, and it's just a fun way to collect this stuff. And you can buy the stupidest shit in the world, the musicals or whatever, and you put them with your like your European Vacation there, and they all match. It looks nice.
Yeah.
So
your uniform.
Like I said, it scratches the itch of that video games used to for me. So.
Is your cat trying to?
Yeah. One of them, yeah. Zelda. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does. It's like you said, it scratches that itch, and that's why I always collected it too. Like if I was taking a break from games or buying toys or whatever, I'd always kind of go off and venture out and buy tapes because they were inexpensive and they're cool. And like you said, it scratches that itch. And then, Kenneth, show that Castlevania you pulled up. Can you show that again real quick? The hang tab.
Yeah, someone cut a hole in the back. It's got this weird little hat shape on the back. It's weird.
Oh, okay. It looks really nice. Show the cover real quick. I know everybody knows what it looks like.
Yeah, it's a little smashed. It's got this on the side. It's not, but the rest of it looks good.
Still sealed. Hang tag.
Yeah, you could just do this side for the eBay picture 3 different times. You just.
Valerie, did you see the sealed hang tab Castlevania that's on eBay right now? It popped up, the raw one? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I've known about it for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, and it's already, what's it at, Josh? Is it at 40?
It was almost at
40 right now?
When we looked at 35.9, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a grail piece, man. That's one game I always wanted. So
it's fun to see him come up.
Yeah, that.
Well, when's the last time
Yeah,
Go ahead,
a
Kenneth.
few.
What's up?
I was just saying he's got a few hang tabs, Russian Attack, and I think a Trojan. So
Trojan. Yeah, and he sold the Burger Time already.
yeah,
Hmm.
there's some interesting stuff.
Oh, you had a burger
There's
time.
Fed Cook,
Yeah,
like the Zelda had.
Yeah.
that's really cool. But I was going to show this real quick. That's why I asked you to show the Castlevania. Was like if you look at a good tie-in, like this Dream Warriors. I mean, it's sort of got that same like horror aesthetic to it. And Kenneth, I know this is like your favorite cover, right? Nightmare on Elm
For the
Street 3, Dream Warriors. What is it? I didn't hear what you
yeah, for
said.
the
Yeah.
is.
So yeah, something like this. I mean, it's like classic. This is the first print too. But Valerie, since we're kind of here just like spewing out all this like VHS information, like
Oh, you're
what do you
fine.
think
I
about it?
my cat just like
Yeah.
jumped on a shelf above me, and I'm a little paranoid that he might knock something over. But I'm sorry to interrupt. What were you saying?
No, I mean, what since we're because we're sitting here just like talking about like all this, VHS and like print information. Like, what do you think? It's pretty cool, right? Like all the prints and variants and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I remember going to Blockbuster as a kid, and like Josh was saying earlier, picking out a game and a movie every week. It was sort of a family tradition. Hastings too.
Oh,
That was
nice.
actually my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just lost. It's gone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
got.
wild.
I was able to work at Blockbuster.
I'm sorry, I just saw something in the comments about
Yeah.
typo.
What's the first print of Tybo on VHS? I don't know. I'm sorry.
I always
It's
wonder.
the last Boy Scout actually, where Billy Banks is the
Oh,
running
that's
back.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh
he was
yeah,
on there.
yeah.
key card.
Little knowledge for you, and he goes, "Ain't
There you
life a bitch?"
That's so
Yeah. Um,
funny.
Mhm.
Last Boy Scout's an epic movie. Anyway, retro gamer dude here, retro game trader says the Mike Tyson Pro. Do you guys see that? And on eBay, the
I saw it.
intergalactic
Yeah.
power punch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I,
that's legit.
That I didn't see that, but that is really cool.
who had
Yeah, it
that?
went for about 10 grand, just under 10 grand. Um,
Jeez.
Nice.
yeah, that's really cool. There was one before. I can't remember who owned it. Maybe Jason Wilson did, and it got like a community dump on Nintendo
Hmm.
8, and that means is it was preserved and backed up. And Brian Parker from Retro Zone ended up dumping the game for whoever sent it to him. I can't remember, and then made some reproductions of it.
Hmm.
And that was the first time people had actually played that version. But it's a later version that sold, like a final one that sold on eBay the other night. So
Yeah,
a
it was
really cool item.
really incredible.
That's a different ROM.
Yeah, it's a different ROM.
Nice.
I I'd like to. I know this is a bit of a hard left, but I really liked the question about anime VHS tapes because this was something that I had been thinking about recently too. Because I know
Hmm.
for me as a kid, before Adult Swim, the only way to really watch anime, at least as far as I was aware, was going to the video rental store and hoping that they had, you know, anime tapes, one, and two, that they had sequential ones so I could actually like watch a full series. And there were a lot of times where I would go and they may have like, the first tape of a series and I really liked it. And then, they never got the others, or there were gaps, or one tape just, was gone for a long time. But, they never really had more than one of each, as far as I remember, at least not in my small town, which I would have to think it was pretty consistent everywhere. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like you know, sealed copies of those anime series that we all grew up loving, especially ones that weren't like widely distributed until after, Adult Swim and Toonami took them on. I would think, there's a pretty untapped potential there.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. What do you
Yeah,
guys think?
We
I
Definitely.
agree, and I think alternative animation in general is untapped.
Yeah.
Outside of the realms of children's stuff. Anything like Fritz the Cat, like a first print Fritz the Cat would it's impossible to find open because the movie was rated X, and so
Hmm.
it didn't get good distribution. So it's it's an interesting world there, you know. Back to anime. I mean, like it seemed like our video stores, they carried them, but in Eugene, you know, we had a nice population of people that watched everything. So, but then other than that, you'd have to go to Suncoast and buy the whole damn set for like $250 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
It was
Yeah.
expensive to just sort of, you know, sample and like try watching new series. I remember, you know, it was before Adult Swim had it. I remember watching the first tape of Trigun after running at Hastings, and then just, you know, being glued to that aisle, like hoping that they would get the second tape. I mean, luckily, you know, years later it was on Adult Swim, but and I ended up getting the DVDs. But still, I mean, I would think that for people who love those series, that's something that, you know, they can. Sorry,
No, it's fine.
that's something that they would want to seek out for
Well,
themselves, because you know
absolutely.
it's, yeah, I mean that's where a lot of people were first introduced to those series in the US.
We've been
Yeah.
seeing a fair amount of anime tapes submitted, VHS and DVD stuff, and a lot of it I'm not very well versed in anime, but I'm surprised the people that send it in will send in like, you know, 20 tapes at a time of just like all of these, you know, different ones from the series, or, you know, they're collecting, or studio, is it Ghibli or Gilby or whatever, I don't know the
Ghibli,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, they'll just, you know, they'll send all this stuff in. I mean, obviously
Or
a lot of
Ghibli.
it's yeah, Pokemon and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Pokemon is the Pioneer stuff is sick. I mean, that stuff came out when that's how you had to watch it, right? You got
Yeah.
it on VHS, and those, to the point, open tapes, right? Those are hard to find in nice condition. You go to a thrift, they're always destroyed because they were kid tapes. Kids beat the shit out of that stuff.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah, a lot
yeah,
of the early 90s anime series I tried to find on eBay, and I mean, I was lucky if I could find one tape.
yeah.
We saw
It's
a cool one.
super rare.
What's like a first print Akira? I don't even know. Like I haven't even thought about.
It's a video comics. It's actually the Japanese
Okay,
version.
sure.
So
What
I've
about
only
US?
seen US is
So would you,
oh, go
sorry,
ahead, Valerie.
I was
No, go
gonna
ahead. What's up?
say, so would you consider a Japanese tape a print run? Since it's a different, I would think it's a different release. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
a,
a different region.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the collectors go hard on VHS in Japan, though. I know that.
yeah, that's
they love physical
true. I mean,
media.
I guess for something like Akira, and this is just from what I've seen like the last 2 or 3 years since like VHS has been, you know, sort of in the mainstream, like high end. Because I've been asked about that one a few times, and you know, I usually will tell people because the North American release is the Streamline Pictures slipcase, but then I'll mention the video comics, like how it's, you know, the Japanese release, and they automatically want that one. They just want
Really?
Akira. It doesn't matter to them. Like, you know how in video games it's like, you know, Famicom or something like that. It's Famicom. I love it, but it's still pretty niche, you know. And there's a certain set of people that collect for it, but most
Yeah,
people
because
are
it's
going to
60
want,
prints.
yeah, exactly. I mean, most people like Castlevania, for example, they're going to want the Castlevania Hanks tab. They don't really, there's not too many people clamoring for like the Famicom, which even though it's amazing, but for VHS, it's a little bit different. And I've noticed that just with Akira, and also Vampire Hunter D was another one. That's a classic 80s anime where, you know, you had the Japanese was like the first release, and people just really, you know, geared toward that one. But VHS, in terms of like other titles, it's a little bit backwards. So, and what I mean by that is like something like a Terminator. We got it here first in North America, but like in Japan or like Germany or, you know, places like that, they got it in some instances like 2 or 3 years like after they were like putting them out there. So it's a little bit different. I mean, but then you have like Terminator. This is another like this is just classic. Kenneth, I know you love this one.
I just
This is the first print Terminator clan.
What do you think about things that didn't come out in the U.S., like Episode 3 on VHS, only Australia, right, or something like that?
Yeah,
And
I like that stuff.
is that a market in itself? Because I mean, I don't know.
It's
Maybe
a
that's a stupid question.
little.
But
No, it's not. I mean,
There are no
It's
stupid
it's
questions.
Yes, there are.
yeah, it's obviously
There
more
are dumb
niche,
questions.
but I had something. Oh, it's right here. Let me show you guys real quick. So this is really rare. This is the only one I've ever actually seen, and it never came sealed. But this is the Belgian release for Goonies, and what's cool about it is you get to see how Goonies would have looked like in a Warner clamshell.
Hmm.
And this is Belgium. So, I mean, obviously, this is going to be like a super niche like market for something like this, but it's just so cool. Like if you look at it, like the aesthetics of it,
Yeah.
you get like the Warner clam like box style there.
Yeah.
And this one came out probably a year after the one here in North America.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, they use like obviously the same cover. It's just in my opinion, like I love the slip, for what it is, but this to me looks a lot cooler.
Well, if you
What
want
do you
like
guys
the
think?
Nightmare 2 like original poster art, you have to get like the what is it,
Yeah,
Japanese.
yeah,
Certain regions
yeah,
have interesting art differences, just like they do for games. Um, you can get
yeah.
a different subset series too, like just totally different art for different regions.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all similar. It's just like we were saying before, it just really hasn't been talked about enough. I mean, I try like putting stuff on my Instagram and people interact with it, but there actually needs to be like a place or like a site or something with like guides and just talking about all this stuff. And like Josh Hinton mentioned, oh, he said, "Sell me that Belgium Goonies clam." Not right
At
now,
Josh
man.
Hinton.
um, I'll tell you what though, when I do decide to sell it, you'll be the first one. But Josh also made up a good point earlier. He made a comment that VHS is super complex with the variants, and that is true. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of been its Achilles heel. Is it's almost so complex that it gets really confusing. Like when we start trying to explain, okay, like this is the first print Goonies, but it has like a duller color tone slip. But then the second print also will have wraparound watermarks and a two-tone Fuji tape, and they're like, wait, what? No, that's the same. And it's like, no, it's different because there's like print shifts happening even on like the box colors and stuff. Kenneth, I
Right.
know like we've tried. Josh, you've tried too to talk to people about variants and stuff, and it's a lot. But if there was a place, or like I know Kenneth and them are going to do guides, and you can just like lay out, even if you did like top 10 like top 10 or 15 like VHS movies or whatever, and just broke down the first and second prints
Yeah.
and put that out
I
there.
think
I have a
I think
Yeah.
one.
question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Val.
Oh,
Is there-
well, I was just gonna ask about Prince because I know that we ran into this with at least one game. I think the best example of this, at least, is probably Pokemon Red and Blue, where there were thought to be consecutive production runs where, in one production facility, they were creating like I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong because this is all top of mind. Sandshrew, and then there was another like production facility that's thought to have been doing the correct screenshot, so they were running concurrent to one another. Is there any possibility that that was going on in VHS when you consider, that some of the differences were just like the color quality and temperature and that sort of thing, or is that something that hasn't been talked about?
yes and no.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Yes
for
and no to
I
definitely.
think
what? I probably should have
there's
asked
so many. I
one
think there's
question.
so many variables to it that stuff wasn't necessarily tracked and documented during the time. And if
Yeah.
you go and ask Larry in the production facility that was making these, he's gonna say, "Yeah, that's what we did," and he's not gonna remember. His memory's not gonna go back that far, unfortunately.
No.
It's really hard. And speculation is fair, but I think that facts are much better, and it's just hard. It's everybody's best guess on a lot of this stuff.
Me and
Yeah.
PlayStation for I don't know, we've had a few times over the years, but I remember like Sam was asking me, he was like, which PlayStation long box case is first? And it's like, well, all three of them are like proven to have came out the same week.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's like, where were you in the country?
Yeah,
Where did your day one copy was? Were you in Seattle or were you in Miami? You know what I mean?
Well, and
Yeah,
that comes down
which
to
store
regions.
put it on the shelves first?
No, no,
Like
it
which
comes
store got it
down.
first?
It comes down to region in Sony Longbox case, because you had
Right.
the production facility in South Bend, Indiana, and then Springfield, Oregon. In those
Hmm.
places, you're going to get different cases because of the packaging companies they're aligned with.
Mhm.
That's really what it came down to on those. And so you end up with jewel cases and ridge long boxes and the other flat stupid thing.
Like,
Yeah,
So
that's how
Yeah.
I've always taken it, that they're all like equal.
well, to
yeah, in
touch on
some regards.
Valerie's Pokemon an example, like you only see those weird double-ended like Game Boy boxes on popular first-party titles. I don't care if it's Game Boy Color or Game Boy or sometimes
Mhm.
even Advanced, but like, is it weird that they exist on, like Zelda, like Mario Deluxe, and it's always popular first party titles where they needed to make more than what one factory, that did the Y-fold
Yeah,
bottoms could
I mean,
support.
I have my own theory and thoughts about that, and I'll just keep them to myself. But I genuinely believe that they were ran for production of keeping costs down to sell at Sam's Club and
Yeah,
Costco, because those places required companies to have lower manufacturing costs so they could bundle shit together and sell it for cheaper to the consumer, right?
no,
So
that's definitely a
Yeah,
good
and
point. There's
you know,
definitely
when you had,
quality.
oh, go ahead, Kenneth.
I was just saying, there's
Yeah.
definitely like proof of side production for quality too. I mean, and that went on all the way to like GameStop having stuff remanufactured in
yeah,
Hmm.
eco case stuff like that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Xenoblade Saga or whatever that was for the Wii, like that was the prime example. Like in the heyday when that came out on
Hmm.
Nintendo Age, I remember like, oh, it's a rare game. All of a sudden, there's sealed copies at GameStop.
Yeah.
So like
Well,
they were
Yeah, and
but
the Atlas games too, for
yeah,
PlayStation 1.
Hmm.
They reprinted a lot of those.
yep.
but yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
those or Fatal Frames for PlayStation 2. They
Oh,
reprint.
that's all Bobby.
Yeah.
That's all Game Quest Direct shit.
Yeah.
And and Kenneth, I've talked to you about this before, and this is piggybacking off of like the regional thing. And Valerie, what you were asking about like the different color tones and stuff like that. So for the longest time in VHS, I thought that's probably what was happening. Whatever facility it was coming out of, that's like, or whatever region you're in, that's what you were going to get. But pretty much what happened was, and I went and pulled these two movies, and it really started for me with the movie Romancing the Stone. And the reason why is because these are two totally different boxes. So, and Kenneth, I think I showed you this before, but this is the first print box. And if you look here, it's got this super like spot glossy like coating on it, and it almost looks sun faded, but that's that same dull color tone. It's just the box they were printing it on. And if you look here, it's really slight, but where it says hi-fi, there's not a shading. And then this is like the reissue like second print box that probably would have been like marked down from like 79 to like 29 or whatever. And if you look there, it has like a shading on top of the hi-fi, and the box is like a little bit brighter, like with the color tone, like even on the backs and stuff. And what's tricky about this too is if you look at it, even though it's a two-tone Memorex tape, this isn't the first tape. It kind of goes back to this one, this Konica tape, because it has the drawer box style like
Hmm.
label. So there's just like different kind of flip-floppy stuff like that happening in video games that makes it real tricky. But I mean, it could have been like a regional thing. But Kenneth, on one of the lives we were doing with Paul, I forget, it was like a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this, and I think it was Paul or you mentioned maybe they were built or making the like street date copies. That's what they called the ones that went straight to the rental stores like in the first month. Like maybe they were making those copies like a certain way with like the thicker boxes or like the glossier coatings that a lot of the you know markdown copies that came out like a year or so after they didn't have. They were just made cheaper, like the later ones. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
You don't see, like Matt was showing the two-tone khaki guard on the tapes. You pretty much don't see those after like 88. Those are definitely
Yeah.
they're always, but a lot of times those are like the earlier first prints or the prints that were at least mainly destined for like rental usage. It's it it seems to be somewhat of a like anti-piracy measure because you
Yeah.
couldn't buy a tape that you could record on like at the store with a khaki guard. Like they're all black. Um, but they a lot of companies did both, like we said with the Goonies, like or Terminator. There's or the Star Wars rental copies. Like there's khaki and black. They were just like using what they had, and they had multiple suppliers. So it really depends. Batman's a good example. Like the first print of Batman from vintage footage that you can find on YouTube has at least two seal types, and people are like, well, which one's the first? It's like, well, the checkered wraparound is the older Warner type, but like there's footage of like the straight inline front only Warner watermarks on the exact, like on the release date, like from the news. So but you're talking about a tape that probably had over 10 million copies on day one. So you're going to have to use more than one facility and print this stuff at more than one place to meet that demand nationwide,
Yeah.
or across North America, like not just the U.S. but Canada too. And some companies had Canadian distributors, and they have different alliance and stuff like that. But some of them use the same stuff in the U.S. as they use in Canada. So
Yeah, definitely.
Josh, I can't hear. We can't hear
they
you.
I put myself on mute because it was loud. Yo, Reagan, you're my favorite. YouTube research is a step up from Google. Byerly told me it is. You just ask Jeeves, but well, I don't even remember what I was saying. But I was on mute. That's okay.
No
God damn it.
worries, man. But yeah, I mean, it's still up in the air, I guess, with like the different color tones. Like if it was a regional thing or, um, because I know if like RCA, for example, had like 60 different facilities that they used across the United States at the time that they were producing like the tapes and stuff on. But out of all the tapes that I've seen and I have, because I have like tons of this stuff, it's like you really start, breaking these down or breaking them down, looking at the tapes, the dates, and it takes a lot of time. But then you start noticing like weird stuff with like the Romancing the Stone print, like I was just showing, and it's like, okay, this one's that way, and the later one's, different, like box and everything. So it's super complex, but to me, that's what makes it more unique and that much more special.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I feel about it,
I got
Kenneth, have you guys seen? Yeah, go ahead, Josh. What's
Yeah,
up?
I'm curious. So, in some ways, like variants are like a huge hindrance for people, right?
Yeah.
People just want the tape; they want to buy the thing, and that's what I think we kind of, when we started selling games on Heritage, like I did in the beginning, and I think Wade, what we found was that people just wanted a copy of Legend of Zelda sealed, right? They didn't necessarily want the variant and everything, and I think in some ways variants we were hindering ourselves as a community by saying, hey, get this, and these 5 things, when Josh Ensign's like, just sell me a sealed copy of Legend of Zelda, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to denote certain things, and I think that it could probably help benefit VHS if it. I'm not saying don't get in the weeds, right? Because I think you should, because I love that in video games. But for the masses to fully grasp VHS as a collectible long term, I think that they just have to have a very basic entry point.
yeah,
And
Yeah, I think some. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. Keep
no,
going.
that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be some sort of simplification to the variants. And that is something that
Mm-hmm.
we ended up having to tackle when we were establishing the video game market at Heritage, because a lot of I don't know, there were a lot of similarities between certain variants, and at the end of the day, some of them you really just can't tell like which one was necessarily, I don't know, first. Like for example, and Kenneth, don't be mad, but like for example, like when they started breaking out like the number of digits in the zip code as like a separate variant, it's like, okay, but what does that really tell you? Like you
No,
just you can't.
it's important to know, right? Like this is all very important details, but like the best example would be like, hey, you want to hang tab Mario, forget about the 4 or 5 other variants that exist among that one, get a hang tab, right? That's a
Right.
good way to go about it, but it
I don't
necessarily
mean omitting the
Right.
cataloging. I just mean, you know, we can't have all the answers.
Sure.
And for some things, it's like, how many people are really, like, if you look at the market as a whole and you just come up with an approximate percentage of how many collectors are going to care about 5-digit zip code versus like 9-digit zip code. I mean, I know that, we can't really, pull the whole market to find out, but I have to think that it's probably less than, 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
No,
true.
think that a lot of the same can be said of a lot of the minor differences in VHS prints. And I guess what I'm saying, like the to the end point is, to a degree, we're by not simplifying the variants, it makes it very difficult for people to feel confident in entering the market. And until
Sure.
you can give people confidence that they know what
Mm-hmm.
they're buying, like they're not,
Well,
they're probably just gonna hang
but
back.
I think it's okay to have
That's
the
true.
details, right? Like, I know you're not
Yeah,
saying
of
that,
course.
but it's to the point of saying, like, this is essentially like minor versus major variants. Like, we can all physically see the hang tab on the back of a box and know that that's earlier than a flatback, right? And that's like a great indicator, and that they're earlier and they're harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's ways to do that with something like Goonies, to specifically say this is definitively first,
like
versus not.
Yeah.
one of the things that we do, with home video at least at CGC, which I kind of like, is there's like a circuit date on the back. So if the box, like the release date on the box, not the copyright of the movie date, like let's say that Goonies, like what is the date on that? It says what, 86 on the box?
Yeah. 3/11/86, and then it came out. I think the release date to the shops was May 23rd, '86. So that was like probably one of the earliest tapes like the dated tapes they produced on.
But that box mat, like that says 1986 on it, was produced for what, 5 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they carried it over to probably like, yeah, 89-ish.
So like one of the things we'll do, and if it's sealed, it helps. We'll circuit date it based on either marked or the tape, or like that foil sticker
Mm-hmm.
that's on there. Later on, they went to like just a regular Warner sticker. So there's a lot of little things that'll change, that we can help the circuit date it, just to give people an idea of like, well, yes, this is an '86 box, but um, every Super Mario Brothers, has 1985 on the box up until they
Sure.
changed '89. So there's like, if you're looking at the date on Super Mario Brothers variants, there's only two years
Mm-hmm.
that you can possibly tell out of 10 variants or whatever. But it's and it's, again, like I agree with Valerie's point. Like, hindsight's 2020. Um, but the problem was, like, starting with the video game part, was this stuff wasn't written down anywhere, and
No.
the people that had it down, it wasn't public, right? So we had people like Braveheart, like some great information that was, it was kind of pocketed, and some people knew some stuff, but there was also a lot of like sub variants that weren't even known about. Um, so it was kind of like, right, if I see a change, I'm going to note it,
Right.
and
No,
then at the
that's what you should do, because it's so undocumented, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And
now like
that's just
all this stuff, and it's I'm still compiling, like NES specifically data, that I would love to release in like a reference guide book form, because I can tell you what an early dust cover weighs versus a later dust cover. You know what I mean? I can tell you, what series of game it probably came on,
Mm-hmm.
just by if it's 22 grams or 16 grams.
yeah.
So, I can tell you what every insert and every game weighs, and what years on it, and what countries on it, and what phrases on it, and how it's folded, and so. But you really have to plot all this stuff out, and there's still work to be done.
Well,
So,
it's so daunting,
Definitely.
because you don't know what's going to matter in the future, why something might be important. So it's important to document this stuff. So,
Yeah.
and
But
for
make
all we know, the third
I
print of
agree with that.
something out there might be the most significant one because there's a change in the game code where there's some naked dude running across the screen or something.
Yeah.
Right. So that might be the one that
They
people
take out the
gravitate
naked
towards.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that documenting that stuff is really important. I have to
definitely.
go here in just a minute.
Yeah.
My kids' practice is over.
Same here, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Getting late.
it's a good place to end it here. Thank you guys for coming on. Valerie, thank you so much again for coming on with us and
Sure. Thanks for
doing the
having me.
live. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do it again sometime else. See you
All right.
guys. I gotta go.
See you.